What's the worst physical pain you've ever experienced? Run over by a truck. 19 broken bones, punctured lung and concussion were the major immediate injuries. It actually did not hurt at first, not even the first hour or two while the first responders were opening the car with the jaws of life. I passed out from lack of oxygen during extraction, thankfully. But the morphine dose was not correct, or I did not process it normally, and I overdosed, and went into respiratory arrest. The pain was so severe my son-in-law told me he could hear me screaming when he got off the elevator. They put me in a medically induced coma for several days. I was on 3 different pain meds for 6 months, and the first 4 months were pure hell. Never-ending pain, only dulled. I cracked a rib and had a chest infection, while also having whooping cough. Easily the worst time of my life. I was on my bike and hit my van in 2003. Long story short, a mass was found in my lung that needed to be removed. After the surgery to cut into my lung and remove a piece of it, I was put in the recovery room. I remember slowly waking up, and then the pain started, and got worse, and worse, and I was hitting the morphine button frantically, but it just kept getting worse. The nurse forgot to hook up my morphine drip, so I got to experience the full pain of the surgery. My urethral opening was too small and contributing to kidney infections, so they made it bigger and put in evaporating stitches. The first time peeing after this was the most excruciating experience of my life. The pain slowly got better with each urination, but the first few days were hell. Edit. Holy, when I last saw this comment it had like 35 upvotes. Obligatory edit about how my most upvoted comment is about my urethral opening. Edit 2. Since this is still blowing up, I'll add some more information. Twice in my life I had to have surgery for a testicle that swelled to about twice its normal size. It wasn't painful or anything, just, not ideal. Anyway, once when I was 10 in gym class, I noticed this dull throbbing in my lower back. I didn't think much of it at the time, but over the next week it got much worse. Went to the turns out I had a very severe kidney infection. Like, my kidneys were on the brink of total failure. My blood sugar was so out of whack that they thought I might have diabetes. So I spent the next 10 days bedridden. Among the fun things done to me were a couple of catheters, which is when the doctors realized what might have caused my infection. The aforementioned narrow urethral opening. They thought that my bladder wasn't properly draining. Of course they figured this out when trying to shove a tube up there was even harder and more painful than it normally would be, so that was fun. When I was about to leave the hospital, I was fairly weak from 10 days of hardly any moving, so my mother had to help me bathe. That was when she noticed that swollen testicle problem had returned. We scheduled the surgery and the doctors decided they would kill 2 birds with 1 stone and do the urethral widening and the swollen testicle in one surgery. Why am I telling you this? Well, here's the kicker. Nobody told me about the narrow urethra or what they were going to do. I only knew about the testicle part. So not only was I in excruciating pain when I first went to pee, I also had no earthly idea it was coming or what was happening. I literally thought something went horribly wrong at first until my parents explained to me what they did. I assume they didn't tell me because they knew the first time would be by and far the worst and didn't want me holding my urine in fear and risk another kidney infection. I see the reasoning, but holy, worst surprise ever. In case you were curious, everything down there is A1 now. The opening was easily irritated for the next couple of years, and I had to carry some cortisone cream with me to school in case I had problems. That was fun to explain to teachers. Hey, my urethra itches and kinda hurts, so I need to slather it in some cream, so could you let me go do that? Appendicitis, in the middle of finals. Went from ooh, my stomach feels weird too. Ow, if this doesn't feel better when I'm done with my practice test and going to the doctor too. I can't even rockus enough to read. Better walk over now too. I can barely walk up the stairs at the health clinic. Was in surgery that night when I had a kidney stone. Intense sharp pains in my right side and back. All I could do was curl up in fetal position. Hyperextended my left knee one afternoon playing volleyball at a party on wet grass. Walked it off, went home, took some aspirin, and went to bed. The next morning, sunshine, birds were chirping. I sat up in bed, pivoted, and then put weight on my left leg. A flash of white blew up my field of vision and I cried out in pain. I ended up wearing a knee brace for around 6 weeks afterwards. I was 10, I think. I was prone to ear infections. We were going to come home from a vacation at my grandparents' house. I told my mom my ear hurt, and she didn't believe me. She thought I was lying, so we could stay longer. A few days later, the ear infection was bad enough that my jaw was swollen and sore. I couldn't chew because my jaw hurt so much from my ear infection. She believed me then, but that was the day we were leaving, so there was nothing to do until we got home. I later found out I had an ear infection in both ears, but I didn't feel the second one because the first one was a lot worse. I spent 5 hours on an airplane that day. Endometriosis. What's worse is that the pain changes every month or so I never know what to expect. Burning pain in my pelvis. I'll walk like I'm 90 for a day. Stabbing pain in my left ovary. Curl up for a few hours and hope that people think I'm passing a kidney stone. And what's even worse is that people think it's regular PMS. About 2 years ago, I was in a nearly fatal car accident. A girl hit my car head on at 55 miles per hour after she crossed the center line. I was knocked unconscious upon impact, but even though my seatbelt was fastened, I was thrown into the passenger seat. I woke up with my knee lodged underneath the dashboard. I was stuck. For some reason, the paramedic responsible for getting me out of the vehicle thought the best course of action was to yank my leg out from underneath the dashboard. I went from having a broken patella to having a shattered patella. The worst part? I didn't king pass out. So I felt all of it. I went to the portrayal I was subpoenaed of the girl who hit me. When she recounted what happened, she told the judge that she still hears my blood-curdling scream in her dreams. My surgeon said, in his 38 years of practice, he had never seen any bone break so devastating. The pain was bad enough for me to not feel my broken nose, cheekbones, wrist, and elbow. Like I had no idea I had any other fractures until I read my hospital discharge papers. 4 surgeries later, and I'm left with an ugly keloid scar. Needless to say, my lawsuit is ongoing. Edit. Just to clarify, I understand that the EMT was just doing his job to save my life. The manner in which he pulled me from the vehicle was, essentially, just what he had to do. I'm unfamiliar with EMT practices and procedures, so my confusion as to why he did it this way is exactly as it seems, stemming from pure ignorance. Just want to reassure you guys that I'm not suing the paramedics. I wish I could thank them for saving me, but I don't know who they are. Circumcision. When I was 6 to 8, my mom decided to do that against my dad's wishes. She took me on a vacation and decided that it'd be a good time to get my penis snipped. I had the pleasure of a 2-day operation without anesthetic. 1-day procedure took longer due to the fact that I fought and struggled through it, where no less 8 people were holding me down. Then the joy of going back the 2nd day for a checkup, that was them finishing the procedure. Never forgot the pain. Turns out Kenya's not the greatest place to get a circumcision. Edit. Wow. Thanks for all the support. It was a bit of a shock to see all the messages regarding my penis. To answer some of the questions, I don't hate my mother, and while I'm not happy about what, why and how she did it, I've never really had to make peace with it. All the relationships I've had, the status quo was a cut hog, so it's never been an issue for me, and has actually helped me before. However, I don't believe what was done was excusable, and anyone who does is more than welcome to hold a lighter to the tip of their penis or clitoris for a few hours. There is a massive difference between doing this in a hospital with a half-hour process anesthesia and doing it the way it was done to me. I have a disease where my immune system attacks my organs. Long story short, all my skin burned off, looked like 2nd and 3rd degree burns on every single part of my body. During this, a few of my organs weren't working, so I had to get a colonoscopy, and it only goes more downhill from there. So imagine this. 15-year-old girl, 20 now, all skin peeling, burning, blistering, and falling off. Feet, butt, and booty hole included, and I gotta drink the colonoscopy prep that basically makes you all day until it's all out. I've got no skin on my feelin' butt. You gotta run to the bathroom, go, wipe, go back, all while hooked up to about 20 machines. It was a jolly old time. Edit. Thought it'd add that they had to remove my appendix during that stay, so that was also a super fun time, since people have been asking. I have lupus along with 4 different types of skin: lupus, scler, discoid, bullous, tens, and an unknown 4 of lupus. I have a severe and complex case of lupus. My immune system attacked my skin, which is what made it do what it did. Infection in right testicle. Had to wait in ER for the doctor for about 1 hour. In that time, sitting on a wooden bench made it swell up to the size of my fist. At the end, the pain was so intolerable that I started to black out. Once I was called and examined by a doctor. Came in the senior doctor. "Is this the one that hurts?" he said while squeezing it. No tears, nothing. The pain was something I have never felt. I could only stare blankly and not say a word nor move. Each time remembering that moment, my balls shiver. Edit 1. As people seem to upvote this, I highly recommend not having sex without protection, as you can get an infection from that. Or, as in my case, have a super shitty immune system. Couple of notes. Sitting is a no-no, unless you are fine with holding her balls in her hand, cause otherwise it's too much strain on the canals, and it starts to hurt. No walking, as you might have guessed it. And the pain in lesser form might never go away. It has been 2 years and finally it only happens if my feet get cold. So yeah, be careful, kids. I have something called trigeminal neuralgia. It is apparently the most excruciating chronic medical condition humans can have. The attacks are on the same pain level as your face literally being on fire. So if something touches my face wrong, or I accidentally chew on the bad side of my mouth, or I get too cold, or sometimes for absolutely no reason, I get to have one of those lovely face fire attacks. It's called the suicide disease, and I get it. During a particularly bad episode, I ended up screaming at my husband to kill me. I've had kidney stones and ear infections. Cluster headaches are the objectively correct answer to this thread. I'll try to describe the pain, but want to make clear that nothing I write will come even close to the actual experience. If you have kidney stones, your brain can locate the pain. It is the organ processing it, but it's not affected in its functionality. You can rationalize that the pain will stop, what it is, and what you can and can't do. You remain you. Cluster headaches are different. Your brain is affected directly and doesn't know how to handle it, so it goes into panic mode and reacts with an endless feedback loop of agony. Everything else completely shuts down. You can't see, you cannot think, and that's not hyperbolic. Your whole existence, that what you think of as you, is reduced to the maximum amount of pain that, again, you as an existence can imagine, plus the feeling of impending doom. You don't register that it is temporary. You don't even recognize what time is. And you want to die. Your only goal is for this to stop, and the only way you can influence that is through death. There is a reason they are called cluster suicide headaches. Then, after it's stopped, it stays with you. Not the pain that subsides, but the sense of you and what it can be reduced to. It's almost philosophical, and the fear of it happening again. I'm at the brink of tears even writing about it. I had a perirectal abscess. It's an infection that starts in your rectum and come out of your butt cheek. That in itself was painful. More painful than tearing my ACL. Now the worst physical pain was getting it drained. They had to stick it with a small amount of Novocaine prior to lancing it. The Novocaine injection was the worst pain I have ever felt. It literally felt like they were injecting hot lava into my already ridiculously painful abscess. Apparently what came out was a bloody milkshake, and there was a lot of it according to the doctor. I actually had to get this done 2x prior to getting the surgery for the permanent fix. I have to say, I don't wish that pain upon my worst enemy.